Hello, Think Natalia tribe. Today I have the honor of interviewing a very special, amazing guest. His name is Dr. Rob Fazio. He's a keynote speaker. He's an author of the book Simple is the New Smart. He's an executive advisor, a member of the Forbes Coaches Council, and also a contributor for Forbes. And a great friend and a former client who worked on his personal brand over the last 8 weeks, maybe a tiny little bit more because we had summer holidays and barbecues and traveling and all of that. But before I continue speaking, thank you, Rob, for being here.
Thanks, Natalia. It's great to be here and looking forward to the conversation with me, you, and hopefully 60,000 other people.
Oh, at least, for sure. So, Rob, who are you and what do you do?
So I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm a friend, I'm someone who really enjoys people in my work. As far as what I do, if you think about it, most people either focus on what others tell them to do, so whether it's their business or organization or boss, or they focus on what they really want to do. And so what I do is I work with people to find the synergy between those two tracks, and I coach and I advise, and I encourage people to align their ambitions, what's beneficial to the business. And I find it's a quicker path to success, which is also much more enjoyable.
Absolutely. And what I find very interesting about you is that you have chosen a very, very well thought through niche, right? With what kind of people do you work primarily?
Yeah, it's I don't know if I chose it or it chose me. It's probably a feature of my personality, but I've been doing this for about 20 years, and I would say over the last 10 or so, I've done a lot of work with, I'll call alpha personalities or strong personalities. So it's people who are really, really fast at accelerating their development, and they get to a senior executive level or a high level in their field. And in some way they get in the way of their brilliance because of the way they interact with people. And I really enjoy that work. One, because the more senior you get, the less people give you information and the more they need it. And I've really been successful in partnering with people that have these alpha personalities and being someone that can influence them in a positive way. And the dirty little secret is, if you help that strong personality, whether it's a man or a woman, it's not just better for their business, less grumpy and more productive. So that's really helpful. And I think one of the keys is that no one is ever empathetic for someone who's a jerk, right? No one feels bad. That person that pushes people around, and the biggest mistake I see people make when they're coaching or advising an alpha personality is they try to go head to head. And I really dislike the cliche, if you're negotiating or fighting with a bully and they punch you, punch them back harder. Worst advice in the world, because they're probably a better boxer than you, because that's what they do for a living. So it's more about actually trying to be empathetic of their situation, and that gives you some insight to connect with them. It doesn't mean that you reinforce or condone their behavior, but the way to help them change their behavior is to really get it and understand their world. And a lot of times it comes into insecurity or the way they were trained in their schooling, right? I've had some docs describe to me, it's kind of like we go to training and basically they say, get your sword and your shield, and then you start negotiating and influencing. So you can imagine what it's like.
Yeah. No, that's horrible. I mean, what definitely helps is your studies of psychology, correct?
Yes.
So this one, and then your emotional empathy or emotional intelligence, and definitely your humor. So what I love about you is that since we started working together, you unleashed that inner clown or that inner light, or however you want to call it, more and more. I can see that people love it in the content. So what are your thoughts on that?
It's true. So initially I was trained in sports psychology and then went to traditional. And when you're getting trained in your doctoral studies, you go through hours and hours of being recorded, so you can learn about your nonverbals, your approach. Matter of fact, you pointed out once that I, tilt my head to the left, and I was like, Natalia, that's there to stay. It's stuck. Like, I've been working out for 30 years. It's not going to change.
Okay.
Right. But the really important thing is, the awareness of yourself and how you impact others. And for me, when I started doing videos, probably a year and a half or so ago, I really enjoy doing them. But I was trying too hard. And that's the same message I got early on when I was being trained as a psychologist. So when they looked at my videos, my one supervisor said, I can't use the expletive right now, probably, but he's like, Fazio, what are you doing in there? I'm like, I'm connecting cognitive behavioral to systems theory and interpersonal process. He's like, go in there and be yourself and be a human and have a conversation. I'm like, huh, that clicked. And that's similar to what you did for me. So I was producing these videos with a green screen, and it just wasn't me. I needed to unleash the hands because, as you know, I'm Sicilian, and I needed to do myself, and I really enjoy them. And, using humor helps. It's something that comes natural. And we know humor has such a big impact on people's productivity, engagement, motivation, making more money, being perceived as credible. So it really works for me.
Absolutely. And then you've also created something very interesting that not everybody might know about. What is motivational currency?
So motivational currency is an approach to engaging and motivating people. Psychologists have gone so far down the road of putting people in color boxes or letter boxes. And I just don't think that human beings are one size fits all. So motivational currency is an approach to motivation where there are 4 different motivators, and you can be high, medium, or low, or any of those motivators. And there's no good or bad profile. So the 4 are performance, people, power, and purpose. And it's based on, years ago, Harvard psychologist David McClelland created the social motives theory, all about internally what drives us. And the philosophy is that we all have things that drive us inside of us. And if we recognize and are aware of what drives us and are aware what drives other people, we're less likely just to go with our first instinct. Because we know about biases and such, we get pulled in certain directions. So this is a way to mitigate some of the risks of bias, as well as energize people. And you're not doing something to people, you're doing something with people. So I always say around motivation, you can't motivate people. What you can do is invite them to be motivated. So it's about creating that climate. And I think vibe, which is they need to feel like you actually want to engage them and energize them. And then 2 is language, having a common language so people can understand one another.
Absolutely. I'm going to link to the webpage so people can read more about it. As you talk a lot about driving and motivation, what motivated you to initially approach me?
Yeah. So let me answer one more thing on motivational currency that I realized.
Sure.
You would have told me to mention this, and if I didn't, you would give me some feedback. But my wife and I, she's a scholar and is a doctor in communication, we created the motivational currency calculator, which is a way to get an understanding of what your motivators are and how you can learn how to read them in others. So to answer your question, what drove me to working on my brand and working with you was I took for granted how hard it was to build a brand that has sustainability, as well as something that is outside of just what I think. So being someone, a coach, an advisor, and a speaker for years, you think you know everything, right? So I knew I needed to get some candid feedback, as well as work with an expert. And it was really stood out for me in my research and why I applied to work with you is that I saw that you had credibility because you had a lot of followers, a lot of activity. I saw that you were someone that really believed in people that you worked with. I could see that in some of the testimonials. And also, you weren't a boring snob, right? So that's,
Thank you.
enough of those. And so that was my hope. I also have aspirations in my brand where I want to be perceived as credible. I want to be perceived as candid. I want to be received as confident, as well as I want to use comedy. And I saw all those characteristics in you as well. And it's been, it's been really helpful. A number of those things, combining that care with being candid, I think goes a long way. So sometimes you'll say, hey, look at this, when I know it means if you don't get this done by next call, I'm not going to talk to you.
That's just my style.
Yes. Yes.
Thanks so much for openly talking about it. I think you were somebody who already was on a very high level of self-awareness, and your content was already very, very good, as you said, because you know who you are and you know what you stand for. But I thought that there were definitely a few things where I can help you polish your personal brand and make it even more impressive. And since we've worked on a few things storytelling wise here and a little bit more on wording and on structure over there, especially in your videos, I can see that more people engage with your content and that you're also regularly trending, for example, in the hashtag leadership and motivation. So what was your biggest key takeaway when it comes to creating content, or what was new for you?
Two things come to mind. So even though I wrote the book, Simple's the New Smart, I don't always remember to apply it to myself. And when I was doing videos, I don't like to have a script. I like to have an idea, and I like to free flow. Big surprise, I know, right? So what you said was make it easier on yourself. And so I had in my mind, always give 3 points and then do something. But it was too much for a 1-minute video, and they weren't as tight. They weren't as clear. So I shortened the amount of information I gave in each video to make it easier for me to articulate. And that also opened up to let me, if humor came up in the moment, I could use it, as opposed to saying to myself, I don't have time to be cute here or funny. The second thing was I was terrible at call to actions. And when I mean terrible, I mean I didn't do it, right?
Yes, I just wanted to say it wasn't terrible, it was just non-existing.
Non-existing. And so that really helped increase engagement, not only having a call to action, but having them also being sharp and making it easy for people to answer, right? So making it something very simple where someone could write something. I've noticed people love to give advice. So those are the first two things that I really noticed as far as the transformation and helping building more engagement.
Absolutely. And then I was a little bit pushy or a little bit persistent when it came.
No, push is the word. Push is the word.
Pushy. Okay. I was a pushy, nasty little asshole of a coach when it came to the topic testimonials, because I know you're outstanding in what you do, but I also know that you work with individuals from Fortune 500 companies, and that a lot of the work that you do is somewhat confidential, or you have very complicated contracts that you've signed. So getting testimonials isn't as easy as maybe for another coach or advisor or keynote speaker, but I just didn't give up, or I didn't accept your no. And I pushed and pulled and screamed and ignored and whatever I needed to do in order to get you more testimonials. Tell us more about the story and how it ended.
Yeah, so when you coach people and advise for years, you're not very used to being on the other end of that. And so I think it's so important every once in a while to do that, just to check yourself. And so there are a few things that happened. One was, first of all, there were about 3 group calls, and I was kind of giving all the reasons of why I couldn't ask for testimonials. And you said, well, it's obviously, you said it in a nice way, but the message was, obviously this has something to do about you because everyone else is getting these. So I tend to be very conservative with my clients, what I ask for and things like that. But there was a middle space. So what you had me do after you realized that I was very stubborn and I wasn't going to take the bait and do it, you said, okay, will you agree to post on Forbes Coaches Council and just ask the question what other people do? It got such a response. Matter of fact, the administrator of the Forbes Coaches Council wrote, these are the most trafficked conversations, and one of them was the question that
Wow.
I asked. So I knew then I had to do something because it was a very strong topic, and so there's a way to do it where I'm being, let's say, classy and confidential. And what I did was I just asked people on LinkedIn, quite simply, I'm working on my brand. I was honest. Would you mind writing a testimonial? And got great responses. So a chief economy officer, a head of technology at a bank, were more than willing to do it. And within 5 days,
Oh,
I got 5. And right now I'm taking a little reprieve because that was a little stressful for me. I'm not going to lie.
fair enough.
But it was a good experience in, stretching myself. So here's something around when you hire coaches, and this is one of the reasons when I hired you. It's people always talk about fit. It's got to be a good fit. That's part of the truth. It actually has to be a good stretch, right? So not just, oh, I feel comfortable. It's, is this person going to stretch me in some way, shape, or form? So I believe in that, and that was helpful in my progression.
Thanks once again for openly talking about it, because I think that, yeah, I mean, of course, you need to click with a person, but when you don't give me the permission to push you, or when you're not interested in growth, then this whole relationship, the whole journey isn't as fun for me, because I am obsessed with seeing people grow to the next level. And like, I don't want to see you suffer, but I want to see you achieve things. So this is why it was really a pleasure. It was so much fun working with you. So once again, thanks a lot for your time and your trust. What would also interest me is your personal perspective on the group setting. I do group coaching for, I think, almost half a year now. And there are individuals who say, yeah, group coaching isn't as powerful as one-on-one. With one-on-one, you can achieve so much more. So I would like to know, what do you think about the group setting? And is there anything else worth mentioning about the Think Natalia tribe?
Yes. So another great Dr. Nat moment was when I reached out to you at first. We had a conversation, and then I circled back to you about a month later, and I said, I'd like to work one-on-one, and you said no. So I was like, okay.
Exactly.
So I was a little hesitant first. I actually think for what you're doing with the Think Natalia tribe and what people are trying to accomplish with brand, it's a better method for the type of coaching. The reason being is the whole social aspect, the support combined with the pressure. So you're making commitments together. One thing, I don't know if you do this intentionally, I kind of think you do, but you kind of have this like no jerk rule. So, right. So I'm like, I'm slightly arrogant, but I still enjoy other people and I want to help them out and be supportive. There's no one in that group, even though there's a lot of really successful executives and people that are part of the group. Everyone is really of like mind in that, okay, the success pie is big enough. Let's help each other grow. So that combination of support and challenge, I think, works really well. You also learn stuff from one another that you might actually not be the expert in, which I think is helpful. You get more momentum. And one of the great benefits is now I've developed some relationships, which I know will grow into collaborations, sounding boards, things like that. And also it's really enjoyable to see other people success and proceed in the way they go. And there's a good amount of times where outside of the group, we'll reach out to each other for a question or things like that, which I think is kind of the point.
Yeah, absolutely. I know from one group member who approached me and said, like, can I approach Dr. Rob? I think he has his life so sorted out. Like, he's so successful and he's a father and he's married. And I have just no clue how he manages that all. I was like, I'm not Dr. Rob. Reach out to him. I'm very sure he's going to share his secret with you.
Yeah. And that's a great aspect. That made me think of another thing too, that's part of the group and something I think you emulate. So it's the being an expert on LinkedIn and brand is great, but I've worked with a lot of other coaches before. What a lot of people don't do is when they see something is take that extra step to reach out. So there'll be times where in between calls or something, you'll see something on my profile or see a video and say either this was good or do this, and you'll leave a quick voice note or something. Might be real quick, but that little extra gives you so much more of practical things to work on throughout the 8 weeks.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. I think these were the core questions that I wanted to ask you. So one last question for you. Who should connect with you on LinkedIn? But what kind of people would you love to have in your social network?
Yeah, I think that anyone in human resources professional, because we seem to do similar things, event planners that work with keynote speakers. And then the third category is anyone who's eager to learn, but learn from perspective of this is going to help me excel in both work and life, and I want to challenge myself.
Okay, amazing. I'm going to link once again to your profile and also to the motivational currency calculator to make sure that people know where to click, know how to contact you. I really appreciate this conversation. Thanks a lot. It made me laugh. I hope that the audience also learned something new, that they will get back to you. And I can't wait to see how your personal brand is going to evolve over the next 3 months, 6 months, 6 years, and beyond.
Yes, thank you, and I look forward to seeing a lot more people in the future and continue to working with you.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Rob. And for everybody who watched this conversation, if you're thinking, well, I'm actually ready to work on my personal brand, I want to turn into a content machine. I want to generate leads. I want more free PR. I want to turn into a charismatic leader, expand my social network, but I just don't know how. I need a concept. I need a strategy. And well, maybe this Dr. Natalia can help me with that. I have some great news for you. Have a look at coachingwithnatalia.com. You'll find a video on this page. Have a look, check it out. If you say, yeah, I think I resonate with that woman, simply hit the apply now button, fill out a short form, then choose or pick a slot in my calendar. And then hopefully you and I will be having a conversation very soon. And during that conversation, we're going to have a look at where your personal brand is right now, where you'd like to have it in the near future. And based on your concerns and on the resources that you have and anything else that might stand in the way, we're going to create a roadmap, strategy that will make sure that you turn into the voice of your niche. So once again, if that sounds cool, go to coachingwithnatalia.com. Thanks a lot for your time and talk very soon.